Hello, I'm Martin, I'm a GP and I've been for nearly 20 years now. I was going to tell a story of what happened to me just over 10 years ago. I thought I was fairly invincible and would manage stress and work pressure, but a combination of various different things happening at my job, a colleague off work with illness for a long time, and various other different things going on, and I suddenly realised that I was beginning to feel a bit under pressure, wasn't sleeping so well, beginning to wake up early in the mornings, feeling quite anxious when I woke up, and then over weeks and weeks began to sort of worry more. So I began to worry about how I was getting on at work and whether I was doing my job properly, and I began to sort of have lots of anxious thoughts about whether I could, whether I was performing properly, whether I was making mistakes, maybe I wasn't doing it as well as I could have. And then that started creeping into other bits of my life. I had a young family with 3 young children, and go home and I worry about parenting and whether we're making the right decisions for children, and it just begins to sort of creep into all aspects of my life. And I can look back at it now and think there were things I really didn't need to worry about, and I was doing more than fine in. However, at the time, it doesn't feel like that at all, and the worries can really get out of control. It really started to impact on my mood and how I was enjoying things in life. Life became really quite unpleasant, and I sort of, I guess, passed the threshold of being able to cope and to manage. It took me a long time, several months, to finally do something about it, and did go and see my own GP, got some help, and ended up being signed off work, which is something which was really difficult for me to accept at the time. I thought probably a couple of days, maybe a week, would be all I'd need, get myself sorted out and get back to work. Of course, I felt very guilty about leaving my colleagues at work, knowing that life would be very busy for them if I wasn't there, and that doesn't help how I was feeling. And then that week went into 2 weeks, and eventually it was 2 months I needed off work, and if you'd have told me that at the start, I would never have said I would have accepted that. But I needed that amount of time off work to make me fit and well again. And if I look back at it now, I think 2 months was a tiny amount of time in the big picture, but at the time it felt like a long time. And I was glad that I did that. And I got myself back together, and I had to do lots of different things, and sort of looking after myself and reflecting on various things to how to maintain my own sort of mental health and well-being. But over 10 years down the line, I'm in a much stronger place, and I also think I'm a lot more aware of how common this is in so many people that I meet through as patients, but also as friends and colleagues. Firstly, I really encourage people to talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues. It can be so isolating when your mental health is suffering and you can feel like you're really on your own. And reaching out and just making those connections and sharing this stuff can be the first step on seeking help and getting better. I think particularly as men, we find this difficult. We have a kind of perhaps a front of kind of success or coping, which means it's difficult for us to sort of be a bit open and honest. And particularly if we perhaps socialise in a bigger group of friends, where it'd be very difficult to share some difficult stuff with a group of people who are just having laughs and jokes. But maybe one thing we could do is sort of, I think, who in that group, who's the one person I trust the most? Who could I actually create a bit of time where I just see them on their own, and maybe just share things a little bit then and say a little bit. And I think many of us would be surprised when we find that person that perhaps it's not an uncommon story for them to hear, and maybe they've been through some of that stuff too. So the next piece of advice I would think is sometimes we can feel that we really don't know what's going on, and we're perhaps the only person going through what we're going through, and then maybe we're absolutely losing and going a bit mad. And I'd really encourage people to read up on resources about feeling anxious, about depression, about sleep problems, and those sort of things. There's some great resources. Mind.org, the charity website, is very good. Rethink.org, another really good resource. Lots of stuff out there, and it can just reassure you that other people have been through what you're going through. You're not alone. People come out the other side, and that you're not going mad. Many of us will find some sort of sense of escape from the kind of difficulties in life through drugs and alcohol, and that probably gives us a brief bit of release from some of the difficult times. However, the general impact of these drugs is not beneficial to our mental health, and probably makes us more depressed and probably makes us more anxious. And we might not realise how that is impacting on us. So I think it's worth just taking it all out of the equation for a few weeks. Have 2 or 3 weeks where you decide not to use anything, and to see, do you feel any better? Does that actually help? So when we realise that things are going badly, we're not feeling so well at all, seek professional help is very important. The first port of call can often be your own GP, and they will hopefully be able to work out what help you need and provide that for you or direct you towards that. However, GPs, like all professionals, there are some great and some not so great, and if you're not happy with the response you got from your GP, go and see somebody else. You can join a different practice sometimes if there's one nearby, or just a different GP within your practice. Maybe take a friend along with you and get their opinion on what they thought. But there's no need for you to feel that there's no help available. So finally, I really get people to think about physical exercise. This is perhaps a message that many people have heard before and many people are very good at, but it can begin to lapse, particularly when we're not feeling so good. We stop doing those things which actually are really beneficial. We stop meeting with our friends to play football, we stop going for a run or a bike ride. I know for myself, I always feel better after I've been for a run, and I never regret going on a run. And there's lots of great evidence that shows that physical exercise helps the mental health. It sounds simple, but it's really effective. So everyone's needs are different. When any of us are struggling with our mental health, different things will work for us, and sometimes it's a combination of several things all joining together, whether that's medication, whether that's talking, whether that's exercise, whether that's taking some time off. It's unlikely to be one thing that makes all the difference, and sometimes we need a combination of things to come together and sort of help us through these difficult times. So be open to different things that will help you, and maybe think you need to do more than just the one thing.